asato ma sadgamaya tamaso ma jyotirgamaya mrityurma amritam gamaya. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Thank you for having me back on this virtual medium. It's always good to meet the folks at Raleigh at the Vedanta Center of North Carolina. So the subject that I usually have only one subject, that is non-dual Vedanta, self-inquiry. And Ushaji said, could you speak a little bit about Bhakti? I said, all right. And then the subject became Bhakti and self-inquiry. So two things to put together. But in spiritual life, broadly speaking, it is there are four broad paths, four big insights that there are in spiritual life, which Swami Vivekananda calls the four yogas, which we are familiar with. One big source of misery in spiritual life is the wrong conception that if we are concerned about ourselves, then we will be happy. Often this selfishness, this self-centeredness, this cherishing oneself, this obsession, self-obsession, this is one of the greatest obstacles to happiness. I, me, mine. It seems natural. It seems that, of course, if I want to be happy, if I want to be fulfilled, I should work for my happiness. I should work for my fulfillment. That should make me happy. But as we look back upon our lives, how little we have succeeded in making ourselves happy. I mean, just in one, take a simple thing. How much we, I mean, it might sound funny, how much we have eaten. If you just think the amount of food we had for lunch, and just imagine it in front of yours, set out on the table, and add to that on the same table at the same time what we had for breakfast and what we had for dinner yesterday, and all the food that we ate in the last week. If you set it out on there won't be space on the table. And imagine the amount of food now you have to move out of the house, maybe into the lawn. The amount of food that we ate in the last month and last 6 months, in the last 1 year of our lives, it will be mountains of rice and lakes of dal and so how much vegetables and how much and buckets of fruit juices and whatnot. And how much food have we consumed in 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70 years of life? If we imagine all of that at once, even the fabled Rakshasas, demons we hear about in mythology, they also won't be able to eat so much as each one of us actually we have eaten. Imagine the enormous amount of resources that has gone into just the physical resources. Then you add to it the clothes that we have worn since babyhood till now, add to it the energy that we have consumed in terms of gas and electricity, the efforts of all others which have gone to making our lives comfortable and viable, from doctors and nurses to teachers, caretakers, electricians, all farmers, all of this resource piled into, poured into this one being. At the end of it today, at the end of 40, 50, 60, 70 years of life, what do I have to show for it? How much have I actually given back in comparison to what I have taken? Forget about giving back. How much have I got? Let's take it in absolutely selfish terms. What remains of the satisfaction? What remains of it all right now with me? Pretty little. So though it seems counterintuitive, it's actually selfishness which leads to unhappiness, lack of fulfillment. It doesn't work. Swami Vivekananda puts it this way, that they alone live who live for others. The rest are more dead than alive. They alone live who live for others. The rest are more dead than alive. That sounds counterintuitive because our first instinct is to do something for myself or the people who are my own, and that way I'm sure I'll be happy. The great insight which life teaches us, and if we are intelligent, then we listen to the teachings of spiritual masters in these texts. We learn quickly that unselfishness is more paying. Unselfishness gives more happiness. Altruism, thinking about others, compassion, it gives more happiness than a selfish self-seeking. I have seen one of the happiest persons I've seen is an old monk I saw many, many years ago. Both of his legs were paralyzed. Both of his hands were, one of his hands was paralyzed, and he was blind in both eyes. And he was in his maybe 70s or 80s, helplessly lying in the bed year after year. I think a decade or more he lived like that. One of the happiest, jolliest, heartiest men I've ever seen. If you go to him, you have to introduce yourself because he can't see you. He has to say, he'll say, who are you? You have to say, I'm so and so. I've come from this ashram. My name is this. I'm offering pranams to you. He was a disciple of Swami Vivekananda. So this Swami. And then he will cheer you up. A few minutes with him, you feel uplifted. I used to think, how is this person, this luminous being in a broken body? This person is more alive than we are. Often an obsession with my own problems, my little aches and pains, my sicknesses, how people behave to. Sometimes it may not be problems also. It's just a self-obsession. Why did I do like this? Why did I think like that? How can I make myself a little better? I'm thinking I'm improving myself, but I'm just concerned with myself. Over-analyzing, overthinking, that leads to unhappiness. How am I coming across to other people? It's, you see, notice, I. Am I doing enough? Am I doing enough sadhana? Am I good enough? Still I. Don't bother so much about the I. Another monk I heard about, I'd never met him, was a senior monk at our home of service in Benares, a hospital. And he told some junior monks from whom I heard it, that I don't understand what you new boys, the newcomers, monastic novices, you're talking about the problems of greed or lust or anger, or you're not happy in this monastic life. When I became a monk, I remember the hospital was short-staffed, and we had to go and work in the hospital from morning till afternoon because there's so much to be done. People are actually suffering right now. There's no time to think about anything else. I have to go out and help them and rush back to the monastery to grab some food, which is already cold because everybody else has eaten and gone. And then no time for the famous afternoon siesta. Rush back to the hospital and work there, miss evening arati, miss evening meditation, come back late for dinner, maybe no food is left anymore. Just go to bed because you're so exhausted, got up in the next morning, started the same routine all over again. Thus 40 years have passed. I have no idea what you're talking about, anger and lust and greed and unhappiness. You see, where do those things come? Idle mind, devil's workshop, the old saying, exactly the same thing. Of course, you have to give credit to this monk that uncomplainingly he lived this life for 40, 50 years. He was very happy did not want anything for himself. He was happy to give. Swami Vivekananda, he says, it is the wise learn this lesson faster. And the others, they take a long time. They suffer in life, trying to accumulate for oneself, and then finding no lasting satisfaction there. And then they learn the lesson. What is the lesson? That unselfishness is more paying than selfishness. The spiritual journey is from selfishness to unselfishness. The happiness is not through selfishness. Happiness is through unselfishness. Literally, not in a forced way. You actually feel it. Another example. Once I was conducting a kind of a panel discussion for college students, and on the panel were 4 very interesting young people. One was a person, engineer and management, MBA, who has started a orphanage for kids who have no parents, with thousands of kids. Another person was a brilliant mathematician who never got to go to go to Oxford because of the poverty of his parents. So he dedicated his life to teaching um, students from poor families and making sure that they get into the the top engineering institutes in India, IIT. Some of you may have heard of the Super 30. They've got something in, yeah. Um, so in the USA, people don't know, but in India, it's a phenomenon how all these kids from underprivileged families, from poor families, they come and they're given this free education. They get into the most elite institutes, all free of cost, and it just so this person does that. Another person collects cast of clothes and gives it to those who do not have clothes. Another person was uh, this graduate of India's top management school, IIM Ahmedabad. But what he did was, he had seen a person, a hungry person on the streets of Chennai, eating dirt because he was so hungry. And so what he did was he started a chain of restaurants. Those are still there. So they're they are still very popular there in Chennai. And the whole point was, with the excess of food from those restaurants, he would go around with those vehicles in the streets of Chennai and go and feed people who were homeless, maybe mentally ill, maybe lying by the roadside. He would just feed them. So this is the panel. Now the question is this. The question somebody asked, it's inevitable in such a panel, the students, the young people, they asked, oh, but it's such a great sacrifice. You have given up your Silicon Valley jobs, your management positions, and so on and so forth, and you're serving poor people, needy people. That's so wonderful. That's such a great sacrifice. So I saw my moment, and I asked the panelists, all of them, all these wonderful young people who are doing such great work, I'm going to ask you a question. They are asking that it's such a great sacrifice. Do any of you feel that you've made a sacrifice? And they all said, no. We are far happier in this life than we were in our corporate lives earlier. You see, unselfishness is more paying. Literally, it makes you happier. Modern positive psychology also shows that lasting happiness, it does not, the happiness that I get by eating a cookie, it's gone within seconds of eating it. But the happiness I get by giving that cookie to a person who wants it, that happiness stays with me. That person gets the cookie, but I get the happiness. And that's a lasting, deeper sense of satisfaction. So this is one great insight, the journey from selfishness to unselfishness. This is called Karma Yoga. Swami Vivekananda speaks about this, how to transform our actions, our daily actions into spiritual practice. This is Karma Yoga. So my actions as the service of the Virat, of the universe, of the world around me. Another great insight. We live in a world of distraction. We fill our lives with, especially these days, social media and Facebook and Twitter, and we often blame the young people. They're always on your screens. But I've noticed something. Elderly people, retired people, many of them, they take very happily to social media and computers and all. And it's a way of keeping in connection with the family and everything. And they're always on the screens also, as much as the grandchildren. So I think you should scold both your parents and your children also for being too much on the screens. What is this? The idea is that in all these ways, interesting ways, the screen is pulling my attention. In these ways, my happiness increases. But it doesn't. This is the interesting thing. At the end of it all, we feel more disintegrated as persons. If you sit in front of a computer and keep on browsing aimlessly for 1, 2, 3 hours, one way of spending 3 hours, or if you sit with a book which you like and read consistently for 3 hours, notice the inner psychological feeling at the end of the two experiments. In one, you will feel exhausted, unhappy, irritated with yourself, more disintegrated as a person. In the other, you feel enriched, more focused, more together as a person. So a psychologist, Mihai Csikszentmihalyi, has written this book, Flow. It's a classic. His whole discussion is about attention. He realized that, he said that early on I realized that this is our real resource as human beings, our attention. And we have limited amount of attention to give. And he said, what makes for a high quality life? What improves the quality of life? And he says, it is attention. What we give our minds to and how much of our mind we give to it. I'll repeat that. The quality of our life depends on what we give our mind to. What are we entertaining in our minds? What are we thinking about? And how much of my mind, how much of my attention am I giving there? And he says the happiest state, the richest state of experience was what he calls flow, where there is intense concentration on one subject and you focus on it, on something that is worthwhile to you, and you do it with a wholehearted attention. It could be a game of tennis, it could be writing a book, it could be playing a musical instrument. Um, those who play musical instruments, they have this, they understand this idea of flow. The idea of flow is that when I'm performing very well, but it's almost effortless. Everything is going very well, but effortlessly so. Sometimes it happens. And the performer himself or herself is aware of it. It could be playing a musical instrument, could be a dance, it could be writing a book or whatever. Any activity you can get flow. But the key idea is attention. These days, Swami Vivekananda himself says, the difference between an ordinary person and a great person is in the degree of concentration. The greatest of minds had one thing in common, whether they are scientists, painters, writers, whatever they are, spiritual masters, one thing in common, and that is concentration. Why only great people like that? I noticed, whether it was at Harvard last year or I always love going to universities. When I was in Raleigh, I went to the university there also. I love going to universities, especially libraries, and watching scholars and students at work. And I've seen the best among them have this one unique quality, which all of them share: focus, attention, intensity of focus. The top scholars I've seen. One eminent physicist, Paul Steinhardt, he was releasing his book, The Second Kind of Impossible, at Harvard University last year. So there was, it was about a new kind of crystal. In the Q&A, I asked him about the importance of focus in success in any field, especially his field in physics. And he said, you just heard me how for 30 years I pursued one research question. To get the answer to my question, he pointed to the wall. He said, to get the answer to my question, I can go through that wall. That's the kind of focus and intensity. All of them have it. All these great people. Swami Vivekananda himself had immense amount of focus or concentration. We know the famous story of his disciple, Sharat Chandra, coming into his room in Belur Mutt. In those days, reading the Encyclopedia Britannica, the actual physical books, not the website or the DVDs. And Sharat Chandra says to Swami Vivekananda that it's impossible for one human being to read all these books, these big fat volumes in one life. And Vivekananda said, why do you say so? I have already read 9 volumes. You can ask me anything from those volumes. And Sharat Chandra did so at random, picking out the volumes. And to his amazement, to his utter amazement, Swamiji answered those questions, often down to the last comma and full stop. Sharat Chandra was flabbergasted. How is this possible? And Swamiji said it's possible for everybody with concentration and purity of mind. Recently, there was this movie, documentary, which become very popular here, especially among students. It's called The Social Dilemma. I also watched it online. And it talks about how the social media is creating tremendous distraction and ruining our focus. The basic idea is that internet content providers, they realize that it's not enough to provide good content. Everybody is providing content. You have to grab the attention of the customers. They call it the attention economy. You all, maybe many of you know it much better than me. The attention economy is that it's all about money at the end of the day. And if you can get people to come to your website or whatever it is, and then the advertisers will give you money. So you want people to keep coming back to their devices. And they talk about how this Facebook and many others, they are the social media platforms. They're training us unconsciously to keep looking at our devices, to keep using these social media platforms. And it has a devastating effect on focus, a devastating effect on concentration. One psychologist I was reading, he said, suppose you are studying, writing, and your phone just goes ping and you look at the phone, whatever it is, maybe nothing, just look at it once. That break in concentration, that break in focus takes 21 minutes to repair. I mean, that may be an exaggeration, but I'm stunned how many times we do it. No wonder we ruin the quality of our work lives. The psychologist Daniel Goleman, who popularized the term emotional intelligence, he has written a book called Focus. And he said, I wrote this book because I was approached by parents, I was approached by teachers, even those corporate executives who hire young people, and across the entire age range from grade school up to those entering the job market throughout college, they are all reporting a sudden lack of concentration, sudden lack of focus, flickering mind. The insight here is distracted mind does not give joy. Distracted mind, scattered mind does not give you satisfaction actually. It ruins happiness. And of course ruins productivity and so many other things. It is a concentrated mind which gives you joy. Focus gives you joy, distraction does not give you joy. In spiritual life, the journey is from distraction to focus. This is called Raja Yoga or Dhyana Yoga, Swami Vivekananda calls it, the science of focus. Everything, he says, that we have done, it comes by the power of concentration, concentration of the human mind. All knowledge is revealed to us by concentration of the human mind. Just a little thing I'll add here, I can't resist. I read somewhere scientists, they object to these ideas. It's not your concentration or anything, brilliance of the mind. It's a scientific process by which you do trials and test a hypothesis, and then it will generate some theory, and there'll be peer review, and finally you come to a conclusion. So that's how you get knowledge, not concentration of mind. So okay. And then last year I came across an article about the great scientist von Neumann, great physicist. It says that he was utterly convinced that he could crack any problem, could solve any problem. Any problem would reveal its mysteries, reveal its solution by the sheer power of concentration. Whatever you may say, whatever this scientist may say, the greatest of your tribe, the top scientist of our times in the last 20th century, all of them, whether it's Einstein or Gödel or von Neumann, all of them, they shared that one quality, focus, and a belief in the powers of focus. This is Raja Yoga or Dhyana Yoga. One more great insight. We believe that we get happiness or joy by having desires and fulfilling them. So pleasure, happiness, joy comes in eating and drinking and maybe entertainment and achievements in life and engagements of various sorts. So 100 desires, 1,000 desires, all directed to the world, and you pursue them and you keep fulfilling them, and that gives you happiness. So this is the idea. Even if we don't say it openly, many people, instinctively we get to this idea and we operate according to it. Sort of busyness, right here, for example, in New York, the slogan is the city that never sleeps. I think COVID is making people sleep a little more than usual, but anyway, still, city, we are proud of it. City that never sleeps. What do you do when not sleeping? Either they're working or they're partying. So this engagement, this trying to satisfy 1,000 desires from the world outside, will it give me happiness? It doesn't. This is a great, great insight. that desire for things of the world will not give me happiness. I always say that I lived in some interesting places. When I first came to the United States, I was posted to Hollywood, and then I was posted to New York, and last year I was in Boston. Now you see, if you look at the nature of these places, the character of these places, what is success? What is happiness in Hollywood? It's if you make it in the film industry. You're somebody in the film industry. You're somebody in the entertainment industry. So name and fame and glamour. You are successful, you are happy, hopefully, if you're glamorous. Doesn't work. What's the nature of success? How is it defined here, right? Not far away from here is, Wall Street and all. It's not glamour, or it's good if your name of if you're famous or whatever, but the question here will be, are you rich? Do you have did you make it? Are you a millionaire or a billionaire? So money is the measure of success here. But then I saw in Boston last year, it's not being glamorous, it's not money. It's are you the head of the department? Do you have, how much have you published? And the superstars are the Nobel Prize winners. So learning, money, glamour, what makes you happy? Or if you go to Washington, D.C., there the whole makeup is power. How close are you to the seat of power? What makes you happy? I'll share something I heard from a sadhu in Hindi. I'll translate it. He said, "Kaun bachayega? Seth ji bachayenge? Pandit bachayega?" And one more thing he said, Raja bachayenge? So he says, who's going to save you? Will the Seth ji means the rich person? Will money save you? Save you means give you fulfillment and save you from sorrow and suffering. Will money save you? Will the scholar save you? It's almost like so many years ago he's talking about, Hollywood and Boston and New York. Will scholarship save you? Will it give you fulfillment and happiness? Will the king save you? Power, being close to the center of power, being a friend of the king, being invited to the White House, will that save you? Then the answer the monk himself gives, कोई नहीं बचाएगा, बचाती सिर्फ ये वेदांत विद्या है. None of them save. What saves is this knowledge of Vedanta. What saves is spirituality. And so how do you know? Notice, the only ones in our civilization, whatever civilization, East or West, ancient, medieval or modern, the only ones who have ever been genuinely happy, recorded to be genuinely happy, that it works without any failure, guaranteed to give you satisfaction, is spiritual life. It is the saints whom we see in every religion, the mystics and the saints, who have achieved genuine peace and satisfaction. Nobody else. Nobody else. Erich Fromm, the great psychoanalyst, he said that we don't have happiness. Our modern civilization is based on building up tension and releasing it. The whole advertising industry, entertainment industry, the way we are primed, taught by parents and teachers, is to build up attention and expectancy through, and then you release it, maybe by getting a gadget, or maybe by eating this food, maybe by getting a nice job, getting into an Ivy League college, whatever it is. Pressure is built up within. I want this. This is great. It's going to give me happiness. And then I release it when I get the opportunity, when I try to satisfy it. And then again, build up pressure, tension, and release that tension. This is not happiness. The path of Bhakti says, all the desires which run to the world, you collect them and convert them into devotion. The path from desire to devotion is the path to happiness. Our common understanding is satisfaction of worldly desires is happiness. No. Converting those desires, channelizing those desires, making them flow towards God, in whatever form you believe in, whatever is your practice. The love of God, which is devotion, that gives happiness. And one monk said, do you want happiness right now? Deep happiness, genuine happiness, lasting happiness? Who would not want it? Yes. Fall in love with God. Bhakti. This is called Bhakti Yoga. And then finally, the greatest mystery of all, who am I? This whole idea that I am this little being, born with this little creature of flesh and blood, the baby and the young person, the middle-aged person, and then the old person, and then death. This is who I am. This is the root of misery. Why? Because first of all, it is false. Second, it's subject to change and decay and death. You cannot be happy here. One Buddhist monk I was reading, a Tibetan monk, he said when he first came to England, he saw an advertisement for an insurance company. So it was a very cleverly designed, almost diabolical advertisement. It shows a young girl and rapidly aging, it shows the face of the girl from childhood, teenage, young, middle-aged, old, then stops there. And the advertisement says that you should insure yourself for requirements in the future. And then he says, I noticed that it scares you. This is within a short 1 minute, if it shows what's going to happen to me, it scares me. I know it's going to happen. And then he says it's also very clever. It does not go any further. Old age, then death. It should show that also. No. It just wants to scare you enough to make you pay for the insurance, not to show you that it is hopeless. Death is inevitable, no matter what insurance is there or not. But that the advertisement will not show you. Then the whole thing is gone. So there is no hope for any permanent satisfaction as long we are identified with the body mind, this little creature of flesh and blood. And Vedanta assures us that we are not this. We are making a huge mistake. Right here, there is a body, but that's not the final truth about ourselves. There's the person, the mind. That's not the final truth about ourselves. The final truth about ourselves is that we are this infinite being awareness. Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahma. Existence, consciousness, infinity is Brahman, or infinite existence, consciousness is Brahman. And that's what we are. Sorry. And we have to realize this. If you realize that, you realize that your nature is infinite. You cannot actually die. The body dies. You cannot actually age. The body ages. You cannot actually get disease or COVID. The body can get it, no doubt about it. But you are not the body. Even the mind, the little ups and downs of the mind, the anxieties, the depression, the unhappiness in the mind, the restlessness in the mind, that is the mind's problem. It's not your problem. I mean, clearly it shows you that you are not that. And then it goes further and shows you that this infinite being which you are is the one being in all beings. If it's infinite, it must be everywhere, in and through everybody. So Swami Vivekananda put it very well, that he says, my mission in life can be put in a few words. It is to preach, preach unto mankind their inner divinity and how to make it manifest in every movement of life. So this inner divinity is that the Atman, the self within, and the oneness of existence. So this self within is also the reality of everything. All things that we see are united in you. Are in all beings and all beings are in you. So there is no difference, no duality. This is the path of knowledge. Jnana Yoga. So basically the spiritual journey, putting it together. I think I'm speaking of so many different things, but putting it together, spiritual journey is the journey from selfishness to unselfishness. Karma Yoga is a journey from distraction to concentration or focus. Raja Yoga. It's the journey from desire to devotion. Bhakti Yoga. It's the journey from self-ignorance to self-knowledge. Jnana Yoga. Let me speak a little bit about self-knowledge and a little bit about Bhakti Yoga, Jnana Yoga and Bhakti Yoga, and then I'll stop and we'll discuss it. These are the two broad paths. I know we just mentioned four, but the two real broad paths in spiritual life are devotion and knowledge, Jnana and Bhakti. By the way, in case I forget later to mention it later, which one should we do on these four? Swami Vivekananda was very clear. Do all four. Meditate. Be altruistic and unselfish. Be utterly devoted to God. Let your love flow to God only, to the divine only, to the real, not to the unreal. And be centered in the knowledge of the self, that I am the infinite being, I am the absolute. Thus lead your life. So, one sadhu said in Hindi nicely, there are only these two paths, the two, jano ya mano. Either you know it or you believe it. Jano means the path of knowing, and mano means the path of believing it. The first one is the path of jnana yoga, the second one is the path of bhakti yoga. Now, the second one, believe it, have faith. This is what the world generally identifies with religion. These ideas were clear in India, but not so in the rest of the world. And even in India, among many people, the idea is that religion is faith. In this country, in the United States, the word for religion is faith, believe in something. So that's correct, mano. That's the path of, you accept it on faith. But the path of know it, that's the higher path. That's the higher spirituality. You can actually know it, realize it, experience it for yourself here and now, because it's an accomplished fact. Spirituality in Vedanta, Advaita Vedanta, in Jnana Yoga, the journey is not from this place to some other place called heaven, in journey in space. It's not from now to somewhere later. After death, you will see God, something like that. No, not even that. It's not a journey from yourself to something else called God. In Jnana Yoga, it is said that the reality which you are looking for is everywhere, and therefore here. If it is everywhere, here also, why do you have to wait for going to heaven? It is all the time. If it's all the time, then it must be now also. Why do you have to wait for something to happen later on? It must be right now, fully available to me now. And it's not the journey from yourself to something else. It is you. All you have to do is inquire into yourself. So something which is available right now, here itself, and it is I, and yet it doesn't seem to be obvious to me, then what is the journey? What is the spiritual journey? What is the problem? The problem is ignorance. And the solution is always knowledge. So in the path of Jnana Yoga, the spiritual journey is from ignorance to knowledge, from not knowing, not realizing, to knowing and realizing. Well, that sounds nice. How do you do it? There always the path for knowledge is always inquiry. Even in this, our day-to-day worldly affairs, you want to know something, you must inquire into it. Here also, in the path of self-realization, it is inquiry. Only the inquiry is not so much an intellectual inquiry. There must be an intellectual inquiry, but ultimately it must be an intuitive jump, a grasp. It works like this. The masters teach you from the Advaitic text, from the Upanishads, from the Bhagavad Gita, and a wide range of Advaitic texts, from Aparoksha Anubhuti, Viveka Chudamani, Drigdrishya Viveka, Panchadashi. This endless literature on it. But their combined message, their one message is the same message. Tattvamasi, that thou art. You are that reality. Aham Brahmasmi, I am that reality. These are called the Mahavakyas, the great sayings. So first, we hear these teachings. We study Vedanta. This is called Shravana. At the end of Shravana, we have a clarity about what we wanted to know. Now we know the teachings. But now we have many questions. We know the teachings, but you have many questions. I don't get it. Earlier, I didn't even know what it was all about. Now I know what it's all about. I can tell you the text, and if you were a traditional student, you would be able to recite it. But I have doubts. I don't get it. So the second part of the process is mananam, which is inquiry based on argument, question and answer, or in the traditional format, purva paksha and siddhanta or uttara paksha. That means opponents, different points of view are raised, and problems with your position are raised, and you have to know the answer to each of them. Very logical, very rational, reason-based inquiry. When have you completed that second stage of mananam? When you can clearly say, at least to yourself, you can say that I'm convinced. First stage, I know the teachings, but I have many doubts. Second stage, I know the teachings and now I'm convinced, I'm sold. I get it. Then what remains? What remains is, I get it, but it still seems kind of intellectual. My life has not changed. I still feel that I'm the same person. You promised I'll get joy and peace and overcome suffering. That's the goal of Vedanta. That doesn't seem to have happened. I'm still reacting in the same way when problems come. Somebody behaves badly with me sometimes, or I get upset. I get a cough or a cold and I think, oh my God, is it COVID? I'm still reacting as a body. I'm still reacting as a person. So to make the knowledge which you have gained and you have convinced about it now, to make it a living reality, meditation, Vedantic meditation, there are many techniques of meditation which are given to assimilate that knowledge. Swami Vivekananda says, till it tingles with every drop of your blood, it becomes a living reality. Just as we right now feel that we are living, we are human beings, this body, we will feel very clearly that we are awareness in which a body mind appears, in which the whole universe appears. And it's very direct, this experience, indubitable. So that happens. I mean, that is called nididhyasana, Vedantic meditation. To give some technical words here, same meaning, but the words are just fancy. So there are these three kinds of problems. One is called pramanagata asambhavana, prameyagata asambhavana, and viparita bhavana. Three problems. What is this shravana, manana, nididhyasana? Hearing, reasoning, meditating. What are they solving? What are they addressing? First is pramanagata asambhavana, the doubt regarding the teaching itself. What are these texts trying to tell me? And this question, the question about the pramana means source of knowledge. What is your source of knowledge? Upanishads. And also all the texts associated with the Upanishads, the Bhagavad Gita and everything else. What are they trying to tell me? What is it all about? So this is the question about the means of knowledge. What is this telling me? Once you know that, and that you solve it by shravana, by hearing the teaching, studying Vedanta, that will answer that question. The next problem is prameyagata sambhavana. Prameya means the thing to be known. What is the thing to be known? That I am that infinite being. I am Brahman. It seems impossible. I am this body. I am this limited creature. That seems clear to me. How am I? Is there at all this unlimited existence, consciousness, bliss? And how am I that reality? These are the questions, and a variety of associated questions. That is solved by the second stage, mananam. The third one remains viparita bhavana, contrary tendencies. After knowing everything, understanding everything, I still find myself behaving like a body mind, like that old limited person. How do I overcome that and become a jivan mukta, enlightened while living? Right here in this body and mind, I know that I'm not this. And I live in fulfillment, happiness, able to face the challenges of life with strength. So that is overcome by nididhyasana, Vedantic meditation. Anyway, so far so good. Now, that's great. How long does it take? Technically, I mean, in the best case, it should be effortless and immediate. No time at all, no effort at all. But that rarely happens. So we keep at it. We keep studying, thinking about it, putting in effort, hard work. Only thing is, it doesn't seem to be happening. We have been coming to Vedanta Society 20, 30, 40, 50 years, and all this we have heard. Swami, we have heard this Shravan Manan Nididhyasana before you were born also. So some of you are so senior. You have heard this all your lives. Why is it not working? The reason is that the entry conditions to Advaita Vedanta are very high. They say even before you enter into this, a certain preparation of the mind is required. What preparation? They ask for viveka, a clear discernment that there is an ultimate reality and this world is an evanescent, passing show of shadows. Vairagya, a dispassion for this world. You may be engaged in it, but that is no longer your purpose in life. Your purpose in life is now to become enlightened. Then a set of 6 disciplines. Shama, quietude of the mind. Dhamma, control over one's sense organs. Titiksha, a spiritual toughness that come what may. Problems of the body, problems created by others, COVID problem, whatever problem, financial problem. I will persist in my quest for enlightenment unshaken. That kind of toughness. Then uparati, a gradual disengagement with too much, the New York lifestyle. Pull back from that. You cannot be spiritual and at the same time, um, be partying every weekend. Work all week long and party every hard through the weekend and then again work. No, that will not work for spiritual life. You must step back a little bit at least. And then finally, mumukshu. So uparati, samadhana. Samadhana means focus. Focus on Vedanta. And then shraddha, a faith in the teachings of the Guru and the texts, that there is something to this. If I persist, I will realize, I will become enlightened. And the final quality they want is an intense desire to be free of the limitations of worldly bondage, of suffering. People are not even convinced that we are suffering, let alone they have an intense desire to be free of worldly bondage. Mumukshutvam, intense desire to be free. Now you can see it's a tall order, difficult. And if you don't fulfill that, one teacher told me, suppose you don't have this sadhan chatushta, the fourfold preliminary qualifications. If I do not have it, and I come to Vedanta, I will end up by saying I learned a clever philosophy, but what of it? If I have those qualifications to a pretty high order, and I come to the same teachings, it will lead to enlightenment. So the way the shoe pinches is not in the teachings, not in the text or that poor teacher, but it's actually in our preparations, preparatory, our capacity for absorbing this teaching. Of course, over time we get it. It's slowly that maturity comes, but it's a long, long process. Very far from the promised instantaneous liberation. Immediately you will realize you're Brahman and you're free, finished. That sounds so attractive. Not happening. There comes bhakti. One sadhu said, Rota wa gyani kisko pasand hai? Who likes a weeping gyani? What he means by weeping gyani is this. I realize I am convinced I am Brahman, pure consciousness, infinite awareness. Why are you getting so upset then? Oh, being upset is in the mind. So this is the result of half digested Vedanta. That so what if I get upset? So what if I am abusive or I get annoyed with you and yell at you? That's all in the body mind. I'm not the body mind. The body mind is doing these things. No, that won't work. As the teacher said, who likes a weeping, complaining, grumbling, enlightened person? That doesn't somehow match. The problem is our tendencies are at the level of the heart, at the level of emotions, at a conditioned at that level. And Vedanta often goes straight to the head in two ways, more than one. It goes to our understanding, and we get an intellectual idea of what it is saying, but it does not transform the person. And that's why this, and all of course, all at the beginning stages, initial stages. And that's why Vedanta masters actually tell us, if you're going to follow, for beginners, if you're going to follow the path of Jnana Yoga, Advaita Vedanta, Bhakti is a very great help. Devotion to God in some form is a very, very great help. Even for getting the Advaitic, the Vedantic knowledge. So isn't there any qualification required for Bhakti? Yes, but the idea in Bhakti is come in first. And whatever you require will be added. God will give you those qualifications. Now, the difference is this. At Harvard, I noticed getting in there is very difficult. I mean, I had no problem because I was like a fellowship student, but the undergrads who are studying there that have very high, SAT scores and their applications have to be perfect. It's a tremendously difficult job, very difficult. So you need these high entry conditions up there. But there is another category of students. They're called legacy students. So maybe your dad was as a Harvard alumni, or maybe you are come from a very rich family and you give big donations to Harvard. It's quite open there. They are not, it's not something shady or anything. Or you come from, and they are children of big international leaders. I mean, the Chinese premier's daughter studied there at Harvard, and prime ministers, presidents, their children. So they are like legacy students who come in through a different process. The standards are not the same for them. You can get into Harvard that way also. but you have to have a powerful dad or mom. Now, bhakti is, we makes us legacy students. God is my dad. The Holy Mother, I am the child of Holy Mother. So I have a right to get into the Ivy League of spirituality. And you are welcomed in. What about all that Viveka, Vairagya, the fourfold qualifications? Not necessary. Waived for you. Because you are the child of the Holy Mother, you get a free pass into the Ivy League of spirituality. Bhakti says, just come, just start. Add God to your list. Vedanta, I and mine, you have to give up. Very difficult. Bhakti says, you don't have to give up. Hold on to your I and mine. Whatever you think, your husband, wife, children, grandchildren, computers, gadgets, social media platform, Facebook likes. This one funny story about, or sad story about Facebook, like I heard recently. One lady in India, husband is rich, very well-to-do, children have grown up and gone and well settled. This lady, she is a housewife, a sort of retired housewife in the sense, not much to do. There are servants to take care of everything. And she starts a cooking show. She's good at cooking and puts it on social media. Now, all she does all day is trying to promote that and unhappy because not getting enough likes. Now see, a happy, nice life, nicely spoiled by your social media presence. So, how strange, a virtual thing, something that, Vedanta says this whole world is Maya. We have put one more layer of Maya over that. The world is Maya, we put a layer of Maya over that also. Upanishads say, why do we not realize God? Why do we not realize that we are Brahman? It says, Paranchi khani vetrinat swayambhu tasmat parang pashyati nantaratman. Kathopanishad. Our senses are turned outwards. So we continuously flow outwards and we see things outwards. We do not see the self which is within, which we are already. We don't see that. So I mentioned it in a talk that this is why we do not realize it. Now there was one Surya Kanti Tripathi, so a very, very learned lady. She was our India's ambassador to Spain and retired. She was presiding. She stood up and said, Swami, what you said, if that was true, that also would have been good if people are seeing the world outside. But that also we are not seeing. We're looking at the screens nowadays, not even looking at the world. If you looked at the world, nature, that's something. I see in Central Park all the time, not so much now, but when tourists come, beautiful. The lake and the trees and everything, especially in contrast to the concrete jungle just beyond it. But nobody's looking at that. They're all looking through their screens, always selfie, picture, not actually directly seeing the thing with their own eyes. So there's like a virtual world we have put between ourselves and this world. So all of this you maintain, and Bhakti says you add God to it. For all the things you have got, add God. One more thing you add. My house, gadget, my social media platform, my likes and dislikes. Bhakti says add one. Jnana says give all that up. Stop that nonsense. Otherwise Jnana will not work. Bhakti says doesn't matter. Do one thing. Just add God to it. You have 100 things in your life. Add 101 God. After dog also, if you want to put God, God. Then what will happen? Magic will happen. God has a way of taking over your life. If you direct love towards God, God loves you back. God loves you, but we don't see that. And slowly that becomes the most important thing in our lives. It spreads over our lives. Devotion comes to God and we begin to see more and more. That is the central thing in our lives. Sri Ramakrishna says, little children play holding on to a pillar, going round and round, and they're thrilled by whirling around. Very careful not to let go of the pillar because they know if they fall, they'll be hurt. Similarly, hold on to God. Do your work with one hand, holding on to God with the other. Once the work is over, hold on to God with both hands. And make it a habit. Let God be the pillar. Let the name of God be the pillar. Let the Guru's instructions be the pillar you're holding on to. As we go on in life, we begin to see there's nothing more important, nothing nicer than that. That is the source of joy. See, why we'll love God, we'll not love people in the world. You will love people in the world better and more genuinely if you love God. You will see the reality that God is in everybody and you're loving God in them. Isn't that kind of weird? You're not loving the person, you're loving God in them. You're loving the real person. God is that real person. What we love as human beings is just a shadow. It's a continuously changing entity and mostly composed of our own fancies and expectations. So, bhakti, it spreads over your life. Now, the higher bhakti, there's a lower bhakti and a higher bhakti. The lower bhakti, it starts with that. Many things are there in my life, and God is also there in my life. And God helps me in my life. I need strength. I need somebody to hold on to. I need somebody to pray to, somebody who will protect me and solve my problems. Generally, my life is better if there's God in it. Nothing wrong with it. Sri Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita clearly says 4 kinds of devotees. Arthati, then this Artha, Jigyasu, Jnanicha. Those who want something in life, those who are in distress, in sorrow or fear, and those who are seeking knowledge, they are all my devotees. They are all my devotees. And ultimately, those who are enlightened, they too are my devotees. So all of them are devotees. And he says there's nothing wrong in asking God for things of the world, but quickly move on from there into the higher bhakti. Because asking God for things in the world, Sri Ramakrishna says, going to meet an emperor and then you ask for potatoes and brinjals from the emperor. The emperor can give you anything, lasting peace and satisfaction. So ask God for higher things. How does one go from the lower bhakti to the higher bhakti? Make up your mind that I am a bhakta, a lover of God, a child of God. That is my identity. Not mother, father, grandmother, grandfather, boss, employee, all the worldly identities, keep them aside. Just like you take off your shoes when you enter the shrine, take off of the worldly identities, put it outside. When you enter go to God only as yourself. You will see the magic. Genuine devotion will come to God. When you throw off the layer, the virtual layer of the world, that skin of the world, you throw it off, leave it outside, and go to God. And then you will see God will take over your life. That is this deep, lasting bhakti that comes. That is the higher bhakti. I am a lover of God. God is mine. I am God's, and nothing else matters. Everything else will be done. I live my life. You'll see your life will be blessed. You will be a blessing to others. And your life will be full of happiness. That advice, do you want to be happy, lastingly, deeply satisfying now? Yes. Then fall in love with God. This is what was meant. The higher bhakti. The higher spiritual, the real bhakti. Not the initial entry level bhakti. So I'll end with one sadhu who put it so beautifully. What is the result of this bhakti? Hindi, and I'll translate. He says, ये लो भक्ति की महिमा, this is the glory of bhakti. बिन साधन के सिद्धि, बिन ज्ञान के अमृत, बिन भोग के सुख. See, bhoga means I try to enjoy things in the world, desires, I'll fulfill them, then I'll get happiness. Without that, you get a lot of happiness in bhakti itself. Vedanta tells you, only when you get the ultimate realization by Shravanam, Manana, Nididhyasana, I am Brahman, such an intuitive knowledge will arise, a real breakthrough. That's the actual breakthrough which happens. When that arises, you are a jnani. Then you're called Amrita, you become immortal by realizing your nature. Here he says, without that also, you're immortal. It means you don't have to go through that process. You will get jnana. Remember, it does not mean that the bhakta is an ajnani. It does not mean the person who is a devotee, they are ignorant. Not at all. Mirabai, was she an ajnani? Of course not. So you will get the jnana much more easily. Remember, legacy student. You don't have to work so hard. And then he says, bin sadhan ke siddhi. Without all the hard work which the poor jnani has to put in, so much studying and lectures and notes and reasoning and argumentation, and then followed by meditation in this sweet devotional path, lost in the love of God, you will get perfection. Bin sadhan ke siddhi, bin jnana ke amrit, bin bhoga ke sukh. The bhoga means, oh, sorry, as I said, by trying to enjoy the things of the world, we think we'll be happy. Like Eric Fromm said, build up tension and release it. That is what's happening here. No, without that, lasting happiness. Okay, I think I'm done. So if you have questions, okay. Question is, we understand Brahman is there in all, but how to implement in real life and experience it? But first experience it. Experience it means first realize it's there. If one really understood that what Brahman is, in what sense Brahman is there right now, this question wouldn't arise. If I really understood that, it's like saying that I know I'm sitting in the Vedanta Society of New York, but how do I experience it? How do I make it real? You are experiencing it. If somebody, if you come and sit there in that in non-COVID times, you're sitting there and you say, yeah, how do I get to the Vedanta Society of New York? And if I say to you, you are in the Vedanta Society of New York, but no, I don't get it. How is this Vedanta Society of New York? Then I say to that person, all right, get up, walk out of the door, take a left turn, walk around the block, then come back to the door, ring the bell, we'll open the door, come back in and sit down. Then you will feel you are in the Vedanta Society of New York. It's the reality right now. Every process of inquiry in Advaita Vedanta shows you what Brahman is, and you are supposed to, it's an intuitive way of grasping it. If you see the Drigdrishya Viveka or the Aparokshanubhuti lectures, you will see what is meant there. Somebody just got registered.
Swami Arvind has a question. Arvind.
Where is Arvind? You can ask.
Namaste, Swamiji.
Yes.
Namaste, Swamiji.
Yes.
My question, Swamiji, is Advaita Vedanta claims that it's the Turiyan or the ultimate reality that exists in all of us, in all of our bodies. So my question is, what is it that leaves the body when we die? Because that is different from every individual.
Correct.
And
so what leaves the body when it dies? What happens at death? What dies? The physical body dies. Sthula Sharira, the physical body. Nobody has any doubt about that. You burn it, bury it, whatever. But what leaves the body is what is called the subtle body, Sukshma Sharira. What is the subtle body? It is comprised of, in one account, 17 parts. You have the 5 pranas, you have the 5 sense organs, not the physical organs. Physical organs are obviously part of the physical body, it will die. But the capacities, and the 5 motor organ capacities, and the 4 parts or the 4 parts of the antakarana. If you take it as 4, it will become 19 parts of the subtle body. Mana, buddhi, chitta, ahankara. That's the subtle body, and that leaves the body. Think of it like, say, a computer and its the data in it. So when the computer dies, for example, the data is not lost. It's saved in the cloud, and you can download it into a new laptop when you get it. So the laptop is like the physical body. It's dispensable. You can dispense it, and you can get the same data into the next machine you get. So what goes from lifetime to lifetime is the Sukshma Sharira. And together with that, there's something called the Karana Sharira, causal body. That also goes from lifetime to lifetime. In Advaitic perspective, Atman or Brahman is everywhere. It is not something that comes and goes. It's always there.
Okay, Swamiji. Just one another question.
Yes.
If it is the same Brahman in which is getting manifested and reflecting as all of these bodies, then if the mind realizes the Brahman,
yes.
Why don't, if one mind it's the mind only who realizes the Brahman, right?
Correct.
Okay, so does that mean that mind is more powerful than Brahman?
Not at all. It's the Mirror which reflects your face. But which is more important, your face or the mirror? So mind realizes
Face.
ignorance is in the mind, knowledge also comes in the mind. The mind is an instrument. It's the instrument with which ignorance engages us in samsara. When ignorance is overcome, knowledge comes, we are freed of samsara. In both cases, we are Brahman. Already always perfect, always free. In one case, we do not know it. We think we are the body mind and we are whirled around in samsara lifetime to lifetime because we think we are body mind. Body after body, we dispense, we pick up other bodies by the force of our past karmas, propelled by our desire to fulfill, our unfulfilled desires, picking up new desires by the way, on the way in the journey, picking up new karma, good and bad on the journey. The whole process stops when we utilize the mind and the body in spiritual life and we realize I am Brahman, I'm none of it. I am the screen, I'm not the movie. I'm not part of the journey which is depicted in the movie. Yeah.
And one more question, Swamiji. How do we practice karma yoga in our workplace? Because
That is the place to practice karma yoga. Earlier I was doing it, I'm being paid for it, I want to rise in the corporate ladder. Those are the goals. Now those goals become subsidiary, secondary. It will be there, but my main goal now is I want to become enlightened. Can I use my office work as a spiritual practice? Why not? If Arjuna could use that worst kind of activity, which is a battlefield, which is horrible, involves fighting and killing, if that could somehow be converted into a duty to be done, why not our day-to-day work in the office? Do it as the same salary you will get, the same work you will do, everything will go on as before, but internally your attitude has changed. This is an occasion for sadhana, for spiritual practice. I do it, mentally offer it to the Lord. Uh, my goal is it brings me close to the Lord, reminds me of the Lord, enables me to worship my Lord, and that's my whole purpose in this.
thank you, Swamiji. Thank you very much.
Yes.
It answers my question.
Yes. There are some
Pranam
people raising
Swamiji.
that you can just yeah, right.
Pranam Swamiji, this is Naren.
Yes.
It's very
You are a
happy to
different
interact with
Naren.
you again. Yes, Swamiji. This is the Naren who met here at North Carolina Center when you came last time. Swamiji, my question is like, I know you mentioned that mind is the one realized, right? So mind is also part of similar to the body, right? Like material thing.
It's material, yes.
Right, then what exactly, who is that is realizing what? Like, if you ultimately go down, right, that, I think that comes down to who I am, but who realizes what?
Yes. It's not entirely true to say that the mind realizes, because mind being
Right.
material, it does ultimately by itself it does not realize. It's like saying at night, who illumines the world? The dark world is illumined by whom? By the moon. But it is implicit in there that the sun is shining, sunlight is falling on the moon, and it is reflected to the earth, and we are calling it moonlight. So when I say moon is illumining the earth at night, I actually mean the sunlight is still illumining the earth, but it is reflected through the moon or from the moon. And now we are calling it moonlight. So when I say there is ignorance and there is knowledge and there is realization, mind, I'm talking about it, it is still the Atman. The Atman reflected in the mind is called the Chidabhasa. So in the Chidabhasa means reflected consciousness. And this is not speculative. The consciousness that we feel, all of us, we feel aware. If you think a thought, A, B, C, D, or 1, 2, 3, 4. You see, there are two aspects to it. One is the thought itself, A, B, C, D, 1, 2, 3, 4, and one is the awareness. Awareness and the thought are different. How? If you think 3, 4 different thoughts, the thoughts come and go, but the awareness is the same in each of them. It is something you are aware of. That awareness is not Atman. It is not pure consciousness. It is the reflected consciousness in the mind. It is technically called Chidabhasa. Now, the Jiva, the sentient being, which we are right now, is the ultimate reality, Atman, Brahman, pure consciousness, whatever you call it, that reflected in the mind as reflected consciousness. So Atman, Chidabhasa, and mind. All three together are called Jiva, sentient being. This is the one who is in samsara. This is the one who is in ignorance. This is the one who gets liberated. What happens? The ignorant person thinks, I am the mind and Chidabhasa. And the enlightened person knows, I am the Atman. There are three things involved here: Atman, mind, and reflected consciousness, the Chidabhasa. It's just imagine yourself as face, mirror, reflected face. Face is like the Atman, mirror is like the mind, and reflected face is like the Chidabhasa, reflected consciousness. Now, the ignorant person thinks, oh, I am that one. What is that one? That reflected face, and that includes the mirror. Without mirror, no reflected face. That thing is I am. And the enlightened one thinks, no, 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 that dude looks like me, but I am not that. I am the face. The face, notice the interesting thing, reflected face is seen, real face is unseen. In the moonlight example, light reflected from the moon is seen, but it's not really the moonlight. It is the sunlight, but sun is unseen at night. You are the real face, but you are not seen. What is seen as an object is your reflected face in the mirror, which is indistinguishable from the mirror. It is literally the mirror which is reflecting your face. Ignorant person thinks mind and awareness in the mind, that is my reality. And that's most of us, we think that. Enlightened person is aware of something further beyond that. My real nature is apart from the mind and consciousness shining in the mind. Mind and Chidabhasa. Separation. This separation, it is done in Viveka, not physically. You cannot separate physically. It's right there now. It's just done in understanding. When you want to know that I am the real face, do you throw away the mirror or smash the mirror? No, no, not at all. Let the mirror remain. Let it reflect your real face. It doesn't matter. But you know you are the face. At no time are you deluded that I am that face. Similarly, even when the mind is there, reflected consciousness is there, all activities are going on. The enlightened one knows I am the witness of all of this. This is Sankhyan realization, not yet Advaita. Because mind is there, world is there, body is there, reflected consciousness, all of those are still there. This is called the separation of Prakriti and Purusha. One more further step has to be done, where you realize all of Prakriti, world, body, mind, mirror, reflected mind, all of them are nothing apart from you, the pure consciousness. Then only Advaita will be there. That's the second step.
Swamiji, this is Samrat from Raleigh. I met you when you came here last time.
Yes.
I don't have a question, but just wanted to thank you for the great summary of all the paths within 50 minutes. I have never had such a great summarization of all the paths in 50 minutes time. And I really thank you for that.
You got the prototype. Tomorrow you will see the next version in action at Princeton.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anand.
Yeah.
Unmute.
So Swamiji, thank you very much for the talk. It's very nice. I have a question about the path of Karma Yoga. So if you practice unselfish actions.
Where is Anand? I can't see Anand.
At the very top, I guess.
Can you wave your hand or something?
Yeah. I just waved.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
All right, go on. Yes.
So if you practice unselfishness, especially in an environment where there are a lot of, say, relatively more selfish people, will it not lead to exploitation?
Sri Ramakrishna used to say, Bhakta hovi to bhoka hovi keno. If you are a devotee, you don't have to be a fool. You can take care of yourself. You don't have to be stupid to be a devotee. So, yeah, you will not allow yourself to be exploited. A devotee, a spiritual person is wiser than the ordinary person. Often, you may allow yourself to be exploited only, but you know it fully well. Your attitude is like, often I've seen little children, infants, they manipulate their parents to get what they want. and by crying or by being sweet or whatever, they try to get some things which they want by manipulating the parents, and the parents know very well that the child is trying to get something out of me, but it's fun for the parents to give the child what it wants. Similarly, um, a spiritual person may appear to be simple and not worldly wise, may even appear to be exploited by the worldly person, but the spiritual person knows the worldly person through and through. I have seen senior monks, spiritually advanced people, they seem to understand much more than the so-called smart person in the world. They see through. They see through instantly. There is a saying, nothing is as confounding to the clever as simplicity.
We have one more, Naren.
Yes.
Hello, Guruji. Thanks
Okay.
for having it. I saw a lot of your videos, at least 20 from your correct videos, a lot of stuff. So I want to continue on my friend Naren's question a little bit more. So we all understand we don't have a I-ness, we need to remove our I-ness. And Naren or anybody's name is just temporary. It may be my birth 50 or birth 100 or whatever it is, right? And we are going to take the birth, maybe, or maybe if we don't get the salvation this janma. The question is, what is our real identity? So, for example, Naren, the other janma I may be a dog, the other janma I may be one more animal, or some janma human. I have something that Atma or the part of the God, right? We are all part of the God. We realize what is that. So where is this all? And when I look at the higher lokas, we are all sitting there. All these atmas, we are all sitting there. But some identity is there, right?
I have a one-word answer to your question. Awareness. Same as consciousness, same as Chaitanya, same as Chit.
Yeah. I
Notice, wait, no, not yeah. Notice one thing which is common to Naren, and if somebody was a dog, somebody was in a higher world as a devata, somebody is an insect, whatever it is, would you not be aware? Would you not be aware? Wouldn't awareness be there?
Awareness will be there.
What is that awareness?
I'm an Atman.
Don't give an answer immediately. Notice it within yourself. Just as you notice your body, just as you notice the question in your mind, notice the noticing itself. That which registers everything. And now is not registered by anything else. One of the hymns of Sri Ramakrishna says, Yo vetti sakalam nachayasya vetta. One who knows everything, but for whom there is no other knower. Upanishad says, Vigyataram are kena vijanyat. By what will you know the knower? Whatever birth you take, whatever situation you are put in, you will know that situation. Who or what is that knower? That is what Advaita is pointing towards. Advaita is not interested in our our birth. There's a very interesting like a story. Somebody came to a sadhu with questions. I have so many, this problem, that problem, and the sadhu shouted at this person, I'm not interested in your problems. He was so shocked, he's so cruel. No, I'm not interested in your problems, I'm interested in you, which means you and your problems are different. You and your birth as Naren, as something else in earlier birth, something else in next birth, bodies are born and die, thoughts are coming and going, but one which experiences all of them is this consciousness. That you are. You must focus on that. All right, so we have to wrap it up. Let me just do a Shanti mantra. Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Tat Sat Shri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu.